One of the things that makes or breaks an online store is finances, and therefore taxes. If taxes are something that confuse you, don't worry, we're here to help. I'm Wes from Printful, and today I'll be answering a few questions about sales tax, including what it is, why it's collected, and when and how to collect it. I'll also go over some common questions about dropshipping sales tax and sales tax with Printful. Joining me today are our friends at TaxJar who will be lending their expertise and answering some of these questions.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Clark from TaxJar. I'm excited to join Printful today to explain some of the biggest concerns and pain points around sales tax to help make things clearer for you.
And stick around until the end of this video. We're hosting an AMA in the comments down below. So if you've got a question and we didn't cover it, you can ask it in the comments for the next 3 hours after this video goes live. Finally, all the links we mentioned in this video will be available in the description below. What is tax and why is it important? So let's start with the basics. What is tax?
Tax is a percentage of the sales price of a taxable product put in place by the government. The government then uses this money to pay for public services like schools and roads. Sales tax is governed at the state level, which means each state gets to make its own law. This also means that each state collects sales tax a little bit differently. Sales tax is also a consumption tax, which means it's only charged when the end consumer buys goods or services. It's also known as a pass-through tax, because even though a business charges sales tax, they don't keep it. Businesses are required to collect it and remit it or pass it through to the relevant government.
This means that we at Printful are required to collect and remit sales tax on purchases our customers make based on their retail price. And you, our customer, might also be liable to collect and remit sales tax as an online seller. How do you know when to collect sales tax? So that leads to the obvious next question. How do you know when to collect sales tax? You need to collect sales tax from sales and states where you have a sales tax nexus. Sales tax nexus is having a physical presence in or a meaningful connection to a state that requires you to comply with their sales tax laws. This means that you would need to collect and remit sales tax when someone from that state makes a purchase.
These are a few common factors that can create sales tax nexus. Number 1, where you have a physical location. This would include your warehouse, an office, or even a kitchen table if that's your home office. Number 2, if you have employees or salespeople. This includes employees working remotely. You may have nexus where they work from. Note that in some states, affiliates can also give you sales tax nexus. Number 3, the states where you store your inventory. If you use Printful for print-on-demand dropshipping, their fulfillment centers don't give you nexus. However, if you're using Printful's warehousing and fulfillment service, then you will have nexus where you're storing your products. So if you store them in Printful's North Carolina warehouse, you'll have nexus in North Carolina. Number 4, if you make enough sales in a state in dollars or transactions. This is referred to as economic nexus and caused some confusion for a lot of online sellers. That's because on June 21st, 2018, the Supreme Court made a ruling in the case of South Dakota versus Wayfair, which overturned a previous decision in law known as Quill. Quill established that state governments can tax businesses who have a physical presence in that state. Now, states can tax remote sellers if they make enough in sales or transactions that cross the economic thresholds the states have set. It was designed to level the playing field between brick and mortar stores and e-commerce stores so that both have to pay taxes.
Since this ruling is fairly new, the laws are changing rapidly, and each state has its own threshold. To keep up to date, we recommend following TaxJar's blog post on economic nexus for the latest information. The lowest threshold for economic nexus at the date of this recording is $100,000 in sales or 100 transactions in Minnesota. So keep a lookout when approaching those numbers. Marketplace facilitator law. Several states have also made laws around marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, and Etsy. These states, like Oklahoma and Washington, require marketplaces to collect and remit sales tax on behalf of their third-party sellers' transactions. So what does that mean for you? Any sales you make through marketplaces to those states will be taxed for you. You don't need to do anything.
However, if you have nexus, you should keep a sales tax permit, as they only handle tax on sales through the marketplace. You'll still need to handle sales tax through other avenues. If you don't do any sales outside of those within the marketplace, you're required to file a simple 0 return saying so, or register for non-reporting sales tax status. You can keep up to date on marketplace facilitator laws at TaxJar's blog.
How do you collect and remit? So how do you actually collect and remit sales tax? Step 1. The first step is to check where you have sales tax nexus. To help with this, TaxJar has a handy sales and transactions checker, which shows you exactly where you have economic nexus.
It's also important to note that international sellers may also have sales tax nexus. So if you're outside the US, you should check as well. We recommend that international sellers who have or are approaching Nexus get in touch with a tax expert to help with their situation. You can get more advice on our blog on international sellers. The link is in the description below.
Step 2. Then you need to check if your products are taxable. If you use Printful for print on demand, you can see which products are considered non-taxable by some states in our FAQ. The link is in the description below. If you use warehousing and fulfillment, you'll have to do your own research to see which products are non-taxable. Step 3.
The next step is to apply for a sales tax permit for each state where you have Nexus. You can't collect sales tax until you have a permit, so it's important to register. The application process is different for every state. You can find the full list of how to apply in each state on TaxJar's blog. If you only have to apply for a sales tax permit in a few states, then you can do it by yourself or follow the step-by-step instructions that we provide. If you have to apply for many states, then we recommend using one of our vetted sales tax accountants to help you out.
Once this is done, you can add tax rates to your store. You should check your e-commerce platform resources to find out how. Then you can start collecting. Step 4. If you use Printful, we also recommend you get a resale certificate, which is different from a sales tax permit. A resale certificate lets you buy products without having to pay tax on them if you plan to resell them, meaning Printful won't collect sales tax. So you should submit a resale certificate to Printful for each state you charge sales tax in, so that way we don't unnecessarily charge you tax. You can find and fill out a resale certificate application form under the billing section of your dashboard. Click Add Certificate, choose your state, fill out the details, and choose any combination of categories, apparel, home and living, or accessories that you wish to be exempt from. Note that if you sell in a new category later on, you'll have to resubmit your certificate to cover that category. So you can apply for categories you don't sell yet if you think you might later. Fill out and sign the form, upload it, and click Submit. Once you submit your complete resale certificate, we'll review it in about 2 business days. After it's been reviewed, we'll send an email to let you know if it's been approved or rejected. If it's been denied, we'll let you know why, so that way you can fix it and resubmit it. If it's approved, you won't be charged sales tax on orders shipping to that state. However, you will be responsible for all taxes on your end. Step 5.
Finally, when sales tax filing due dates come, you need to report how much sales tax you collected. To find out how to file a return for each state, we recommend you go to TaxJar's map, choose your state, and follow the guidelines here. You need to determine how much tax you collected from buyers in not only the entire state, but in each county, city, and other special taxing districts within that state. This can sometimes be easy, like when there's only one rate for the whole state. Other times it can be really complex. That's why we created TaxJar. TaxJar connects with all the shopping carts and marketplaces where you sell, and then creates return-ready sales tax reports just the way the state wants to see them. It's also important to remember to file a sales tax return every time you have a filing due, even if you didn't collect any sales, or there could be a hefty penalty.
That's the basics of sales tax. So let's move on to how sales tax works in a drop shipping relationship. Drop shipping and sales tax. Sales tax while drop shipping can be confusing as there are multiple sellers involved. We've found the best way to explain this through a diagram.
In this diagram, we have the drop shipper, in this case Printful, the seller, in this case you, and the end customer, in this case your customer. Let's start with you. You need to collect sales tax from your end customer if you have Nexus in their state. Simple, yes or no. Now, we add the drop shipper, or in this case Printful, to the equation. If they don't have Nexus in the end customer state, then they don't charge you sales tax. If Printful has Nexus in the end customer state, they need to collect sales tax from you unless you provide a resale certificate. This doesn't matter if you have Nexus or not. If Printful has Nexus, but you have no Nexus, then Printful will charge you tax unless you submit a resale certificate and charge your customer tax. So the key points to remember here are: 1. Sales tax is collected on retail purchases based on the final customer's location. 2. Even if you don't have Nexus, Printful may still need to collect sales tax from you, as they could have Nexus which needs to be fulfilled. And number 3, a resale certificate is needed when buying from Printful. Otherwise, they will collect sales tax.
And that's it. So let's recap what we went over today. Sales tax is a pass-through tax collected by a seller and remitted to the government to pay for public services. We now understand what sales tax nexus is and the steps you need to take to collect and remit it. And we've gone over the common tax situations you will face when dealing with dropshipping. Now, it's over to you. Ask any questions you have in the comments below. An expert from TaxJar will be joining us for the next few hours, so now's your chance to get some answers from our expert. And don't forget to head over to TaxJar for some extra help with your tax filing. Hey, it's Wes from Printful. I hope you found that video very helpful. All the links that we mentioned can be found in the description below. Don't forget to check out our other tutorials, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the little bell icon so that way you always get notified when we have new videos.